Sit in the armchair over there. Thank you.
Sit in the armchair.
Thank you, I will. Got some water there for you as well.
Thank you very much.
A very warm welcome to Crawley.
Thank you very much.
A safe trip down?
Yeah, it hasn't been very far actually, because I live in Streatham, so,
so
it
easy
didn't
drive
take
then.
me very long.
That's good to hear. I must tell you something before we start. Dennis, one of our members, has to go to work at 11:30, sitting in the corner over there. And if he leaves at 11:30, not because he's bored with what you're talking about, he actually has to go to work, so please forgive him that. The fact he's here, I think, is nice. He's made the effort. We're going to talk about your career as an actress. We'll sort of go back to your roots, if that's okay with you. Your father was a draftsman.
He was.
Your mother was a housewife. You were brought up in Stratford-upon-Avon.
Yeah.
I think you had an aunt that was in amateur dramatics.
I did.
Is that true?
Yes, I did. Absolutely, yes.
But apart from that, it's not really in the blood, so to speak.
Not in the family in any way, no. Apart from this aunt, my mother's sister, who was very, very keen on amateur dramatics. So I can only assume it came from sort of there. I don't know. I don't know where it came from.
I'm curious though, but growing up in Stratford-upon-Avon is such a history of theatre and Shakespeare. Did that have an influence on you wanting to become an actress? Or?
Well, it may have done, but acting was never actually what I wanted to do originally. From when
ballet, wasn't it?
It was ballet, yeah. I wanted to be a ballerina, badly. I don't mean I'm a bad ballerina. I really
It was your life
wanted
ambition when you were about 5 or 6.
Absolutely, and so I did all those Saturday morning classes, you know, that people do when you're little, and they were the Royal Ballet School send out, well, unbeknown to me then, and I assume they still do it, send out a sort of scout, like football clubs, I suppose, round various schools, dance schools all over the country, and they choose a few people, a few kids that they think have the potential of becoming a ballerina, and I was one of them when I was about.
So you had a scholarship
10.
to become a ballerina?
Had a scholarship.
Must have been good then at that age.
I must have been good, but what my problem was that I've got very slightly flat feet. And you know, those ballerinas have that beautiful line when they're on point. Yeah. They look fantastic. And I never quite had that, but they thought with a year's intensive training, just ballet, I wasn't allowed to play any sport, of any kind. I wasn't allowed to swim, no tennis, because you develop muscles on one side more than the other, all that. So it was a 5-year scholarship, and there were 5 of us in the country, and at the end of every year you were sort of reassessed, and they thought that my feet would improve, but they didn't.
When you were told you could learn how to become a ballerina, was that did that hurt you a lot? I mean, obviously it's what you wanted to do, or did you? It
did, yes, it did, but don't forget I was very young, so kind of it's like, well, I can't do that. And in fact, thank goodness it didn't go on longer, because I didn't really grow anymore.
And ballerinas tall, don't they? Of course,
well, for a corps de ballet, they like ballerinas of a minimum height, which then was 5'3". I have no idea what it is now. But I would not have even been able to be in the corps de ballet. And although things have changed in the ballet world now, with people like Wayne Sleep, who's himself a sort of short man, then it was very rigid rules. So actually, if I'd gone on, it would have been worse if I'd gone on to do 5 years, say, and then discovered that I wasn't going to be any good. So actually, to be out at the end of the first year, whilst it was a blow, I soon recovered.
So you're doing Saturday school with amateur dramatics. You also then went to grammar school, and you wrote off to stage schools then.
I did.
To try and
unbeknown to anybody. Yeah, I wrote off to some stage schools in one summer holiday, and I got an interview in London, and I said to my mum, "Can we go to London?" She said, "Whatever for?" And I said, "Because I've got an interview at the stage school." She went, "Oh, what have you done?" And anyway, she came with me, and I got in. And so I never went back to school. I had to sit before the Board of Governors because I was only 15. And you couldn't leave school then, before 16. And they sat around and decided that because it was obviously something I really badly wanted to do, keeping me at school was not perhaps the best idea. And so they let me go.
This was the Ada something drama school.
Ada Foster
drama
stage school.
Stage school. Now this was what, at the age of 15, 16?
Yeah, I went there when I was 15, just coming up in the September, coming up to my 16th.
So one day you were at school, and the next you're at stage school.
I was living in London with a family. First time I'd ever been away from home.
So you going away from home to London on your own at 16.
Yeah,
that must have been daunting.
Well, it was daunting, but I so passionately wanted to do it that I just got on with it. You know, I was very homesick to start with.
You must have tremendous motivation to actually leave home to do this, and like you knew this is what you wanted to do. Like a calling almost, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why it's very difficult to stop somebody who says, "This is what I want to do." It doesn't matter how much you say, "Well, it's not a very good idea," and no. If they really want to do it, even if they don't do it till later, they will do it.
A week after you were at stage school, you wrote off to various producers and things, and got about 11 auditions in the first week.
Yeah,
incredible.
I did. I didn't write off. I mean, once I was at the stage schools work by you having classes there, so you dance, do all your acting lesson classes, all that. But at the same time, Ada Foster herself was your agent.
So the school acted as an agent as well then?
Yeah, that's what they were there for. To train you, but at the same time get you work.
But you had 11 auditions, I think you got 3 offers of a job.
Yeah,
that's incredible, the first week.
Yeah, all of such a variety of stuff. One was a sort of knitting pattern model, sort of jumper.
This is Marks and Sparks, is it?
One was a boys and girls exhibition at Olympia. And I
remember those, in the 60s, I remember those.
Yeah, did some modelling with Elaine Page actually, because she was at school with me, and we did Marks and Sparks swimwear, which was quite funny.
And you did Monitor, didn't you, as well?
And Monitor was the other thing. Johnny Dankworth had composed this LP to go with the old Curiosity Shop. Well, it was all Dickens, actually. It was sort of a Dickensian feel to the whole.
I ought to explain to people, some of the young ones, what Monitor was. Monitor was a Sunday night arts programme on BBC. It was like a forerunner to Omnibus or the South Bank shows, that kind of highbrow arts programme. Jonathan Miller used to host it, I think, didn't he?
That's right. Yeah.
So
I got the part of Little Nell, which was fantastic because all I had to do was, while the music was playing, just sort of walk around the streets and look Little Nellish, which was fantastic because I've never actually...
No dialogue then?
No dialogue, but it was wonderful because I'd never been in front of a camera before. So, you know, it's quite daunting having those things pointing at you if you're not used to them. And so it was wonderful for me to just watch and learn and see actually what happened with that. And that's all I had to do. So it was very good.
Then at 17 you became part of Crossroads.
Yeah.
Now, Crossroads is one of these soaps that in the 60s and 70s was very, very popular indeed, probably the most popular, in line with Coronation Street or whatever. It was 5 times a week. It was Lou Gray's ATV company, and it has a reputation for fluffs and people saying things they shouldn't, and scenery falling down, what have you. But it had great music by Tony Hatch, didn't it?
Isn't that not Doctor Who? Oh, sorry.
Crossroads.
Yeah, it did, and indeed it was a bit sort of, it was like that, exactly like that. You know, it was, if you got it wrong, because it was so fast.
That must have been good training as an actress, because you're having to do perhaps one read through or whatever, and then you're filming it, and if you have to do it to the end or whatever. In those days I tended to film things in chronological order, so you really have to keep going, you can make a mistake. That must be good training for...
It was incredible training for being able to learn lines for a start off at speed, and even if you couldn't get them absolutely right, to at least get a real sense of the scene that you were doing, because you knew the other person with you was also probably struggling with the lines. And just technically it was fantastic because it was so fast, and you learnt very quickly, you know, how to keep out of somebody's light, how to use the camera. And it was a most fantastic, and of course I was only, what, 17, it was the best training. Because
one of the co-creators of the Crossroads was Peter Ling. He was
Yeah.
one of the staff writers, and he obviously went on and wrote The Mind Robber, which appeared in for Doctor Who, so you've worked for him twice, so to speak, for his written word. You've worked with people like Norman Wisdom, Dickie Henderson, Anthony Newley.
Yes.
You know, you've really worked some very, in the 60s certainly, they were like top line performers, weren't they?
All with their own shows and all. I suppose they were a bit sitcomish in a way. Some of those.
These were musical for Anthony Newley, wasn't it? It was.
Yeah, he wasn't actually in it. He wrote it. And I worked twice with Norman. Once on a television show, and once in the musical.
This is his TV show in the 60s. I thought it was called The Norman Wisdom Hour or something like that.
Something like that. I can't remember what it was called, but I played his niece, and like I did in with Dickie Henderson, that was a sort of sitcom format. Same sort of thing, played a young relative of some sort. But they had their own shows, and they were quite interesting to do. Then all done in front of live audiences.
That's good experience for an actress. You know, it gets your nerves going, and it really makes you do the work.
Difficult, not easy to do a show in front of a live audience, because you're actually wanting to do something quite small for a camera, but you're very aware that there's a huge room full of people, well, an audience, a big audience sometimes, in big studios. So you tried mainly to play to the camera, but yet you were aware that there were people sitting out there who were probably only being able to watch you on a monitor.
They were there to provide laughter, then, were they? Give an atmosphere.
They were there to give atmosphere, laugh if it was funny, and so it was all very, very good experience. The musical was something that I'd always want. I mean,
this was
able to
roar
bring
of the
in
grease
the dark.
paint, smell of the crowd.
Yeah, and really, I think that Tony Newley should have played the part himself.
It seems bizarre he wasn't in it. I mean, he wrote this.
He was in it when it went to America, but here he wasn't. It was Norman again. And whilst Norman was very good, I think Tony would have been probably better. But the show itself was great for me, because I could use all my dance basically.
Indeed, of course, no training.
Singing is another matter.
We won't ask you to give us
I see you laughing. Yes. I'm not the greatest singer, although I did sing in that, but never on my own. I'm all right when I'm not singing on my own. But the dance was good. It was a very innovative show, and it was before its time, and audiences then weren't used to shows that had no scenery, and it was scaffolding, and it was not the norm then to do a show like that, and it didn't go down terribly well here. We did about 20 weeks on the road, I think, and we were supposed to come into the West End, and it just wasn't going to happen. It really wasn't going to happen.
That's a shame.
And so he took it to the States, and it did mildly well there, but really not as well as I think they'd hoped. Although it was a pretty good show, I have to say. I think if somebody did it now, it would be good. It would stand a very good chance of being. I'm surprised it's kind of gone. You know, that it never reappeared as another production now at this time. But it's the way it was. It was good for me though.
When you came to go up for the part of Zoe, Harriet, and Doctor Who, presumably A.J. Foster put you up for the audition, then, did they?
Yeah.
So Peter Bryant, the producer, would have been there.
Yeah.
Was Derek Sherman there, the editor? So script editor and producer. What actually do you have to do for that read-through? What was your audition consist of?
Well, there were lots of auditions. First one was just to go along and have a chat, and then the next one was go along and read a bit, and then the next one was go along and read a bit more. And each time they saw everybody.
So you're being whittled down, say 3 or 4 or 6 or whatever.
Each interview was the group of girls was getting smaller and smaller. Not that I ever saw the other girls.
You had no idea who was up for your character?
No. Not then. And then the final one was, I think they got it down to about 4 or 6 of us. And that was a screen test, so that was actually a line of a page of dialogue that you had to stand on a mark in the studio, and the camera was just on our eyes, I'm sure it was the same for each one of us.
Just get reaction.
And you did this line, this page of dialogue, which were all completely different. It was completely nerve-wracking.
It must be difficult acting with your eyes.
It was really, really
actors use a mouth, whatever.
Yeah, it just was to see what was behind the eyes, I suppose. And it was like a line where you were saying something funny, a line where you were crying, a line where you were angry. It was, each line was a different emotion. So it was tough. It was very tough, and nobody to work with. You know, we didn't do like a scene. It was just stand on that mark. It was just as well the camera was there, because my knees were like knocking big time.
I can imagine it must have been quite terrifying. Now, within about an hour of being offered that role in Doctor Who, you also offered another role with Maggie Smith's film, The Prime Minister Brody.
Yeah.
That must have been a very difficult decision, because you've got TV, important work, TV, Doctor Who, your favourite actor, Patrick Trout, playing the lead, which must have been certainly tempting. And also you've got Maggie Smith in The Prime Minister Brody. Was it difficult to make that decision, or was it an easy one?
It was very difficult. It was, I think I drove my agent mad. She ultimately, you know, could advise, but you know, the decision was going to be mine at the end of the day. And I think for about 3 or 4 days I'd phone her out and say, I'm going to do the film. She'd go, right. And about an hour later I'd say, no, I'm not going to do the telly. And it went on like that. I just couldn't decide which, sort of from a career point of view. I think I was almost too young to make that decision on my own, actually.
Was the fact that Patrick Troughton was in it, did that sway you, or was that...
Yes, it did. I mean, it did. It was the thought of perhaps something that could turn into a long-running thing, and experience, how much experience I'd get, how much more experience I would get from perhaps a television series as opposed to film. But whatever the reason was, I was very, very pleased with the decision that was made in the end.
I read somewhere, I don't know if this is true or not, that you actually were at Deborah Watling's last ever recording at Lime Grove Studios. You were in the gallery watching it. So you actually got to see the sort of last episode of View from the Deep End.
Yeah. Well, what the BBC did is they'd throw a little party for Debbie leaving, and at the same time they'd incorporate that with, I mean, I don't know whether they always did this, but certainly what happened with us. It was also a party to welcome the new girl.
Quite a nice
which is
way
very
of
nice.
being brought in. You get to meet all the principals, and it's less nerve-wracking the actual day you start filming.
So that's exactly what I did. I sat in the gallery while they recorded her last episode, and then we had sort of drinks together, and off she went, and then on the Monday morning I started, or whenever it was. But
I'm not going to go for every single Doctor Who episode. I'm sure people want to ask questions later on, but I'd like to ask you about that first one, Wheel in Space, because the director was Tristan van der Kool, wasn't it?
Yeah, Tristan de Veerkool.
De Veerkool, beg your pardon.
Yes.
How much help was he? This is your first sort of major TV thing since, you know, Crossroads or whatever. Was he a help for you? Or?
He was. It's always difficult coming in and taking over from somebody. I don't know whether he'd done other stories before. I mean,
I'm not sure about
you
that,
might know
actually.
more than I do.
That's the only one he did, I think.
Was that the only one he did?
I think, well, that was the first one he did.
Mm.
I don't think he was one of the regular directors that come up on.
Was it, well, he was a new boy as well, so that probably helped. It was difficult because you're trying to establish a new character, and that's always difficult in anything. I think I probably got more help from. There was a bit of a format going of the Doctor, the boy, and the girl, or the Doctor and the, you know, and I think it was more difficult. I got more help from Pat and Fraser, I think, than I did with the director.
But your character was a very strong character, because it sort of diverted from the previous Doctor's companions, particularly the female ones, tend to be screamers or the Dolly Bird types or whatever. But you were actually quite a.
I wasn't a Dolly Bird, is that what you're saying?
Well, no, I'm not saying that at all. But no, you were intelligent. You were actually an astrophysicist.
Yeah, I couldn't even spell it at the time.
It was.
Yeah, she was a strong character.
She had a brain in her head, didn't she?
She was a strong character, yeah. But like all the stories, there to tell the story, you know, there to ask the questions. I didn't get a huge amount of there were times when, probably particularly in that first story, when I was able to show the intelligence. But I did feel that later it did become a bit companion-ish. There to help the audience along with the story.
Indeed.
Rather than be that strong character.
I'd like to concentrate on just two of the stories. I think one's your personal favourite, The Mind Robber.
Oh, yeah.
And the other is The Invasion. Mind Robber is an amazing story because I think I've always been interested in, you have some very potent being in a domain which he has total control over, and a TARDIS landing in a land of fiction, where anything is possible.
It was just something completely new.
It was brilliant. It was. I mean, I remember watching that for the first time in '68 and thinking the idea of a forest of letters.
Yeah, I know.
You know, Jamie climbing on top of this tree, realising it's a letter, and there's more or less making words. Brilliant idea.
Very, very clever, and just proved that there was something you could do that was new, completely innovative, with Doctor Who, and it worked.
A character talking lines only written by Jonathan Swift, things like that. It's very, very clever stuff.
Yeah.
And it seemed to me that even when Fraser was ill on that and he had to be replaced,
it was probably one of the reasons it's my favourite story.
It works.
But how clever was that?
It works perfectly.
You
and
know,
it could have been written into the story.
And how lucky we were that it was that story, because, you know, somebody who gets chickenpox and suddenly isn't there might have proved much more difficult in another story than that one, where we could do something as wacky as put his face together wrong, you know, on a blackboard, and and me say to the doctor, oh, she's got it wrong, and somebody else becomes Jamie. That was very lucky. Yeah.
I think of that story. I think of the white robots, which I think were actually a yellowy colour, weren't they?
Yeah.
But I think they were used in a BBC series originally called Out of the Unknown, Into the Unknown. Or
were they?
And they were black in that, and so they painted them over with yellow.
Oh, right.
And the Clockwork Soldiers.
Yeah, they were good, weren't they?
Kept walking even when they went into a wall.
With those huge keys on the back.
Indeed. But the opening episode was actually written by Derek Sherwin, I think, although Peter Ling actually wrote the story, because it was originally a 4-parter, and because I think there was something they were filming about a prison planet, something didn't come off, an extra episode had to be written. And that, I think it had like the TARDIS interior prop, and it had a few white robots or whatever, and really you're acting to a blank screen most of the time.
Yeah.
I think that's brilliant. That's one of my favourite Doctor Who episodes, because, I mean, you've been taunted to go outside the TARDIS, but what's outside? There's this lovely conversation when Patrick Troughton says to you, you're very interested in what's outside the TARDIS now, Zoe, aren't you? That it could be nothing. And she wanted to go out and have a look at this nothing, and saying, you mustn't do it, it's very dangerous. And I love that scene, because it's your inquisitive mind.
Yeah.
Let's go out and have a look and see what's there. But that story is incredible, and I'm so glad that survives in the archives.
Yes.
In its entirety.
Yes, very lucky.
Which brings us on to another thing I'd like to ask you about. I mean, how do you feel about a lot of your episodes have gone missing, or, let's be honest, being wiped by the BBC and destroyed, for want of a better word?
Well, what can I say? I mean, it happened, and I suppose there's a chance that there's something still there. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what they did, whose idea it was. I think
the producer was supposed to have like to sign a declaration to do it, but I don't think most of the Doctor Who producers that I've talked to have no idea that this stuff was destroyed. It was just because at one time it wasn't in their charter, the BBC, to actually to keep the stuff in the archive as such. They were just broadcasting
and I think,
organisation.
were we saying yesterday or during the week that it was terribly expensive? The tape we were using was very expensive.
It was reused, wasn't
and
it?
they reused it. So, I mean.
But it isn't just Doctor Who. I mean, it's Hancock's Half Hour, it's FS2 Park, Zony, but also Crossroads, all the black and white missing on that. Freewheelers, all the black and whites are missing. I mean, you could go on forever. I mean, it's very sad. I suppose it's a fact of life, really.
Yeah.
The other story that I really do adore, and I think in a way it's only just second really to Mind Robber, is Invasion. And I was trying to think the other day why I like the Invasion so much, and it was brilliantly directed by Douglas Camfield. I think he's one of the best directors
He's a good director,
that Doctor Who ever had, and most of the really, really stories that I like tend to be directed by him. Also, you've got Nicholas Courtney as Ledford Stewart, and he's tremendous in that. And you can see how in the Pertwee era, that unit of having United Nations Task Force developed, because it is so good in that, much more so than it was in the Web of Fear, which you didn't appear in. And it's got the Cybermen, which I think are the best monsters ever. I just love the Cybermen.
Do you? You like Cybermen?
I think they're great. And it's not padded really. I think most of the stories that are like 5, 6, 7, 8 episodes, whatever, tend to have loads of bits in it, really just in there to make it into a long story.
Yeah, but the last time I saw Fraser, he was saying stuff I didn't remember about, that some stories did start off as small, 4 episodes, and then there was extra stuff written, and they became longer. I don't remember any of that. It's weird.
But the one thing that I think makes that for me is Kevin Stoney.
Kevin Stoney.
He's brilliant in that.
I think should have been in a James Bond film.
I was saying this earlier,
He
it's
should
weird.
have been.
I was saying this earlier, he'd make a great Ernest Travers Blofeld.
He was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic.
He played just right, and there's so many things. I mean, I think when Patrick and him were together on screen, it was just dynamite, because they were trying to pick spots off each other, which I think is great when you watch actors do that. But there's a sequence early on where you give, I think there's a reception of Tobias Vaughan's company. You give the computer a nervous breakdown. Now most megalomaniacs would be really cross and start kicking their cat or whatever, but his reaction is a wry smile. He's actually glad that someone's defeated this computer, and that just shows you how powerful and how lunatic this bloke is. And you realise, and he's got a slight squint in his eye or whatever, and he doesn't even let the Cybermen boss him about. This bloke is so tough, he even tells them what to do. But he's a great actor, I think.
But you know, that's one of the things about Doctor Who, the calibre of the actors, and the actors that were in it. It was fantastic.
I think particularly in the black and white years, I mean, I'm not saying the colour years didn't have the good actors in them, they had some very fine actors, but I think the actors needed to be good because the sets were wobbly and falling down. And
it's part of the charm though, wasn't it?
It was, but the acting was, and I think the writing also, was a very high standard of writing.
Well, I mean, that's it now, isn't it, in any programme, the writing and the acting.
I don't know, I was watching some old episodes of Maygrey the other day with Rupert Davis, and I was thinking, these are so well acted, you know, and I don't. Michael Gambon was a very capable actor, and he appeared in the updated Maygrey, but he wasn't a patch on the old ones. No. I'm a child of the late 50s. I grew up in the 1960s with black and white TV, so watching black and white TV doesn't seem to worry me. I look at that as normal. Perhaps a child now, you think of black and white TV as being kind of very old-fashioned and in the Stone Age or whatever. So I don't know, but I mean, you know, like, to me, it's normal. I must ask you about Brighton Rubbish Dump.
Oh, lovely, lovely location.
I think you were filming, was it the Dominators there, or the Protons, one of those?
One of those. Which one?
I think it's the Dominators. And there was...
Is the Dominators one with the quarks?
Yes, it is.
Oh.
But you were filming this at Easter time. There was snow on the ground, there were rats.
It was April and it was snowing, it was freezing.
You had this tiny dress on.
Yeah. There's a good idea, isn't it?
And you had an assistant who had a fur coat and a bottle of brandy in her pocket, so she must have been very popular.
She was the wardrobe lady, so she was, we needed her badly.
It must have been really strange working with your idol, Patrick Troughton. I mean, I know you said in many interviews in the past you used to watch him on the Sunday afternoon classics on BBC, but to actually act with him, that must have been daunting. And obviously it was great to act with him, I'm sure. But,
well, it was daunting the whole thing was daunting to start with. You know, to take over from somebody is daunting. To go into something like Doctor Who, which was so popular, was daunting. And then to be faced with Pat was very daunting. But he made it so easy. He's just a delightful man.
Before he died, Patrick Troughton said that he loved working with you and Fraser and Deborah Watling. And Fraser speaks, although he winds you up on something awful, he does speak very fondly of you, and that comes across. And you do as well. I know you tend to sort of little things at each other, but there was obviously a very, very good rapport between you there.
Yeah.
Now I know when an actress or an actor comes onto a series, you have to work together because you're making this production, whatever. But I'm sure that it was so obvious you liked each other in the scenes you appeared in. That came across from day one, I think.
Great respect, and we were able to have a laugh, you know. And I think what I learned most from Patrick, was that it was very much a job, and that you went to work, you did your work, and you went home, and he took it very seriously. It was very important, but at the same time, it was a job, and so it was nice to learn. That's why it took me a long time to go to conventions, because he was quite a very, very private man, and I know he ended up going to conventions and loving them, because he phoned me up once and said, "You'll never guess what, I've got something to confess." And I said, "What?" He said, "I've been to a convention." I said, "No, you haven't." And he said, "Yeah, and the other thing is I liked it." But when we were actually doing this, you couldn't foresee that there was going to be all this happening years later. You know.
It must be bizarre talking about 68, 69, a time in your life which such an interest in that part of your acting career. I think it's so right that your character and Fraser's character left Doctor Who, not of their own violation, being married off to someone or being left behind on some planet. The Time Lords forced them to leave Patrick's Doctor, because I don't think those characters ever would have left of their own free will. They had such a great time, they would have carried on.
Absolutely.
And I think that is very, very fitting. Everybody knows you were offered the chance to stay on and work with John Pertwee, at least for another season anyway.
Yeah.
I can understand why you wanted to leave, because you had such a good time with Ella, but do you ever feel sad you didn't do that extra year? It had been in colour, the production would have gone up, values and...
No, I think it could never have been. I would never have felt the same about John, and I've worked with John since.
Super Ted.
Yeah. And he was a lovely man, but I don't think once we'd set that sort of threesome, I don't think it would have felt the same, and I think I was happy, and still am, that I left when I did.
Now you left, I think it was June '69, you left Doctor Who approximately about then. You did a stage show, Wait Until Dark.
Yeah.
Then you were the lead in Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
Then you did a TV series which I have a lot of affinity for. I love them from my younger days. Freewheelers. It's a series that's almost forgotten these days. It's never repeated. I think it was shown on Sky about 10 or 12 years ago. ITV never reshowed it, or Channel 4. You can't buy video cassettes of it. It's this forgotten series. And it was made by Southern Television over 6 seasons. I think 25-minute episodes before the news on a weekday on ITV. And so that marked up to Ronald Lee Hunt.
Yes.
And I don't know how you describe it, like I said, a junior James Bond maybe, or else lots of helicopters and rushing around.
Lots of baddies and boats and yeah.
It was a bit Bondy, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I suppose it was in a sort of
marvellous theme tune. I seem to remember.
Was that?
Yes, the Freewheelers theme tune. I won't hum it for you, but I mean, you appeared in 3 seasons of that, and the locations, the south of France, Cornwall. I mean, you went around it, Amsterdam.
I know. I mean, a bit different to Doctor Who.
Indeed, Brighton and Upperstone. Yeah. I do love that series. As I say, now it's a shame I don't show it again.
Well, I mean, they had a healthy budget for a start off. I mean, it was one of Southern Television's big series then.
Indeed.
And they got the budget, and so we were able to go and do stuff in the south of France. A nice location, and we did a lot of pre-filming actually. We did all the pre-filming first, and then we'd go and do the series because it was 13 episodes, wasn't it?
Yeah, 13 episodes per story.
Yeah. So we do all the pre-filming first, and then come back to this country and start working day by day and week by week on the episodes.
Because Ronald Lee Hunt's character, Colonel Buckham, was an MI5 type, wasn't he? He seemed to recruit children and teenagers.
Yeah, I think the sort of, it's all a little bit, you didn't want to go too deeply into
it's a bit strange though, isn't it?
Who these kids were and why they were on this boat and where they lived.
And he trusted them implicitly.
Absolutely, yeah.
The boat, what was it called? The Mary Ann or something?
Oh, was it?
Yeah, something like that. I forgot about the boat, the yacht, yeah.
Yeah. We sort of moved swiftly on from the sort of where these kids came from.
Most of those black and white stories have actually been destroyed since then, a bit like Doctor Who really. But so I think one of your black and white seasons was destroyed, but 2 still exist, 2 of your colour seasons. So I'd love to see. If anyone's got episodes of these, please can I have a look?
I'd love to see it again.
Yes,
actually.
I'm sure we all would. You made a film in the early 70s called The Blood on Satan's Claw.
Oh, I did.
An early British horror movie.
Oh, I did.
How did you come to get that part in that film?
Same thing. Ada Foster, just suggested me and went along again with lots of other actresses. And in fact, there was a little core of us, Elaine Page and Harrod Rees, and about the same age, all looked a bit younger than we were. And that's what they did then. If they wanted somebody younger, they'd get somebody older who'd done a bit of work, rather than now when if they want a 16-year-old, they get a 16-year-old. So we'd all go for the same interviews, and we'd all go out for coffee. And we'd all go, did you get the last job? Oh, it's your turn this time. It might be my turn this time. And there was this little core of us that used to sort of kind of share the jobs, and that one was mine. And yeah, it was exactly the same system, just...
This film occasionally appears on late night television, doesn't it, in the early afternoon?
I haven't seen it.
I think it's appeared a couple of times in the last 5 or 6 years.
Has it? What's it like?
I quite like it. I actually I'm a big fan of the Hammer horror movies, so I actually quite like these British horror pictures from the early 70s and late 60s. I think they have a lot of charm.
Simon Williams and Patrick Wymart,
yeah,
wasn't it? His last film before he
Hayden's
died.
in it, or?
Linda Hayden, yes.
Anthony Ainley as well.
And Anthony Ainley, of course. Yeah.
You also appeared in a stage show, Doctor Who, called The 7 Keys to Doomsday. Now, Chris Slatter, one of our members here, actually went to that.
Well, you'll be able to tell me what it was all about.
I was very cross at the time, because my parents wouldn't let me go. I think there was the IRA were bombing London or something or other. There was something going on in London. They wouldn't let me go up to see it, and I was like really cross.
It's very, very funny, because just before Christmas I went to Scarborough, and there was a lighting guy there called Mick Hughes who directed it, and I hadn't seen him from that day till this. And he said to me, oh my God, and we did all that, and I said, I can't remember the story. I remember it being pretty sort of fantastic to look at.
It was pretty advanced for its time.
It was very advanced for its time. And I said to Mick...
Because the sets were coming down. They took it up, didn't they? They were taking the sets up and down.
Yeah.
So as the curtains opened, you had the TARDIS set.
That's
you
right.
You also had the one where you were running downstairs.
Yeah, I remember all the beginning really clearly. I remember certain parts of but I don't actually remember the story, what the plot was about. And so I said to Mick, tell me what, and he said, I can't remember. I have no idea.
You started off as a plant in the audience, didn't you?
Yeah, it was a very, very good
that.
opening. Well, I thought it was. I don't know whether you thought it was.
Yeah,
I thought it was really clever to have,
And also, it was quite interesting, because you were at the time of transition in terms of television. You had just come to the end of the Padbury era, and Tom was about to come in.
Yeah.
And you were sort of at that it was a funny period anyway,
yeah.
as a fan of the show, because you were sort of, what's it going to be like?
Yeah, yeah.
But I like the rushing in, and the fact that you saw sort of Trevor Martin was on the ground, and you two were sort of looking around him, and he sort of turned, and then they used the big screen behind.
That's right.
And I thought it was very...
big screen was very new.
It was very new,
and it was very complicated to do, because because it was all back. A lot of it was back projection. For the person, stage manager or whoever was on those slides, as it were, every line was a cue. So there was not much chance there of actually getting your lines wrong, because you could mess up big time what was going to happen on those huge projections. It was pretty...
Because every time you had the closing, they were moving stuff up, and you could hear them moving stuff down again as it sort of went through its different stages.
I remember there was some sort of... I know it looked a bit naff from where I was standing, but I suspect it looked very good from the front.
Very good from where you were in the audience.
Guy with very, very tall. In fact, he climbed up a ladder.
Yeah.
And what was he? Who was...
I can only remember, I have images of it.
Yes, I've got images of certain parts of it.
But it was, as a set, and from the audience's point of view, was really good, because it was really quite colourful as well. I can remember.
And I got to meet the Daleks, of course, first.
Which you didn't get to meet them in the series.
Yeah.
I like to single Chris out actually because he provided
I've also
all
got
the
a programme as well from it.
Have you? I'd love to see that. Interesting.
Chris provided the background information for his interview today, so thank you very much, Chris, for that. Moving on a little bit, you came back to do Doctor Who in 1983, The Five Doctors, with Patrick and Fraser.
Yeah.
That must have been, although it was a fleeting role that you had, it's like a cameo really, wasn't it? But it must have been nice to do that.
It was nice. The reason I did so little was because I was expecting a baby at the time, so you know, it was like I'd do a little bit, it would be very nice. But it felt odd. It felt very odd, and I remember talking to Pat, and he said it does feel. It just felt strange, us all being there, you know, all the doctors and all whoever, however many there were. And whilst I enjoyed it, I was quite pleased that I didn't do much more on it.
I'm curious about something here because Fraser and Pat went on to make the two Doctors with Colin Baker,
Yeah.
Greatly expanded roles. Was there any chance at any stage that you were going to come back to be with them in that story, or was that just not an option?
Well, I can't remember when that was.
Maybe about 86, Chris, would that be something like that? It'd be 3 years after the Five Doctors.
Not as far
Maybe
as I'm
even
aware.
before, maybe in 85 maybe, perhaps. 85.
No, there was no, not as far as I was aware. I don't remember being asked or, from what I can remember. I may have been, I can't remember.
In 86, or 85, 86, you did Super Ted.
Yeah.
Which must have been a lot of fun. You did that with your then husband, Melvin Hayes, didn't you? Who you'd met, I think, when you were making Free Wheelers, about that time.
Yeah, that's right.
It must have been difficult because you must have made a conscious decision at some time to actually become a mother, start a family. For an actress, that must be very difficult because obviously you really are putting your career on hold, so to speak.
Mm.
How much was it easier having an actor as a husband who understood that problem that you faced? Was it easier?
It was easy. I mean, Mel was away working most of the time. It was easier for me to stay at home and look after the children. In fact, it's exactly what I wanted to do. And I did do the odd thing. I did some sort of presenting on kids' programmes, which was with an actor called Tony Aitken. And that was easy because it was like 2 days a week, or 2 days a fortnight even. And that was really easy to fit that sort of thing in. But yeah, you're quite right. Most of the time I decided I was going to stay at home. And that was fine. And Super Ted, I was talked into Super Ted because they'd done the television cartoon series, which was fantastic. And then when Mike Young decided, who'd written it, decided he wanted to do it on the stage, and he said to me he wouldn't do plot, and I went, no. And he said, oh, it'll only be a little part, and it'll only be just over Christmas. And I said, oh, well, and he said, it'd be so funny because you'll play Spotty Man's sister, and it'll be funny, visually funny, because he's up there, you're down there, and it'll just be funny. And so I was talked into doing that, but of course the part got bigger and bigger, and as we rehearsed, and as John forgot lines and decided that the lines he'd forgotten should have been mine anyway, my part got bigger and his got considerably smaller, and it turned into a mammoth part, and I don't think I ever left the stage pretty well. But it was good. It was good. It was a good show. Went down very well in Cardiff. We did it for 10 weeks over the Christmas period.
And you actually got to work with John Pertwee eventually.
I worked with John on that, and yeah, and Victor Spinetti. It was very, very good.
You also appeared in a very long-running stage show. Well, I think in the last season of it, weren't you? No Sex Please We're British.
Was long running until I got into it. What about it coming off?
Yes, because you said it might happen.
Yeah, at the first day's rehearsal, the three of us were sitting there, the three leads, and I said to it, 16 years or 17 years or whatever, something going. I said, It'd be funny if we managed to bring this one, you know, off, and that's exactly what happened. It just petered out, I think.
Now, at some stage in your life, you must have obviously thought you wanted to move away from acting and become a theatrical agent. That's a strange thing to do, isn't it? I mean,
no, no time in my life did I decide I wanted to be an agent.
So how did that sort of come about?
Purely happened by my deciding I didn't want to act anymore. That was the biggest decision.
Is that because you weren't enjoying it, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't enjoying the work I was doing. I wasn't enjoying. The last thing I did was an episode of The Bill, and that finished it for me. I thought, no, okay, I really am not enjoying this anymore. There's plenty of people out there that are enjoying it and could do this work, and I don't want to wait for things for work that when I do it, I don't enjoy it. So I sat around for a bit, thinking I'm not very good at sitting around either. Deciding what I wanted to do, and it was just a friend of mine who said to me, I know what you'd be good at. And I said, oh, no, not agent, that's grown-up stuff, you know, that's much too grown-up for me. And I thought about it, and then he put me in touch with somebody who was looking for someone to in their office, and I went along and met, and I decided I'd try it for a bit anyway. And I've been there 7 years.
But you have people like Colin Baker and Mark Strickson on your books, don't you?
Mark was already on the books when I
was.
came, but Colin, after conventions and things, he kept saying, "Oh, go on, take me on, you know, look after me." And in the end, we decided that we would take him on, which was easy, you know, very, very good to look after Colin.
Now, I'm dying to ask you about a forthcoming thing, because you're actually going to be appearing with Colin Baker in a forthcoming production called The Hidden, or Souls Are. Why have you come back into acting, and can you tell us something about that? What this is about?
Well, I've just finished it yesterday, and it was Colin and a guy called Ian Burgess, who's written it and producing it, and it was always going to be Colin doing this. And he phoned me up and said, you know, do you fancy doing this? Because you'd be great at this character, Keel, Mina Keel. And I said, oh, I don't know whether I'm kind of keen enough to act again after having not done it for so long.
It's a long time to come back into it.
It's a very long time. Yeah. Anyway, it took a bit of. In the end, I decided, you know.
This was Colin persuading you,
wasn't it? That I'd go for it, and we've just finished it, and I think it's going to be very good, actually. It was very, very scary to go back. It's a very good story. It's about an organisation called The Hidden, which is just it's not just an organisation set up to preserve all knowledge, whatever that might be. And these two characters are called in if something particular happens, and these two are the best people for the job. They get called in to investigate, basically. And it has well, I think it has quite a sort of X-Files-ish feel to it. And it's very nice for me. I don't feel in any way during it like a companion, because there is always, I know people call these things Doctor Who spin-offs, and I think the only reason for that is because they happen to have Doctor Who people in them, but it actually has got nothing to do with Doctor Who, and I don't feel that I'm playing the Doctor and a companion. We are very much two experienced people in our own field, and we investigate on very level footing, and we are both equal, and that's been nice, very nice for me, to play something that does come up with the answers, hopefully, and it's a good story. It's about, you know, I hope you'll all buy it.
This is coming out mid-1999, isn't it?
Yeah, it should come out in about April, I think, they're hoping.
Ooh.
And it'll go straight to video, and they hope it'll be a series.
Also, this is going to be the last year you're going to do this kind of thing, isn't it? Go on conventions
It is.
and whatever. Can we ask you why that is?
I'm tired. I'm not tired of conventions, but you know, all the other people I think are still acting, and from time to time they don't work 52 weeks of the year, non-stop, and I do, and it is a hard job being an agent. I know we get bad press, but some of us are quite conscientious, and it's a very hard job, and it doesn't just involve sitting in an office from 9 to 5. I do that, and then I go and drive to Northampton and sit in the theatre, and then drive home, and still get back into the office the next morning. It's a very tiring job, so weekends are quite precious, and I found that as much as I enjoy doing them, I get tired, and weekends are becoming a bit precious. I'm not suggesting that anybody has made me go to Doctor Who conventions. It's not that at all. I have gone, and quite willingly gone, and enjoyed myself. But I think now, 1999, that is enough, and well, that's enough. I will just.
So at the end of this year is the last time we'll get to see you on the circuit, so to speak.
Yeah.
Although Colin will still be there, and Mark, and.
Oh, they'll all be there. Of course, they'll all be there because that's quite right. They're fine.
Has acting in Soul's Ark made you want to act more? Have you found? You said you didn't like acting, or the fire wasn't there. That's why you decided to give it up. Has acting in this, and you sound quite passionate about it when you're describing it. Do you want to do more work now as an actress, or are you still a theatrical agent? And this is, I might do the occasional role if it's to my liking, or.
I have to wait and see, or I will have to wait and see.
If there's a series,
exactly.
If there's a sequel.
Depending on what happens with this, if I would have
so please
to give
buy
it,
it, everybody.
I would have to give it a lot of serious thought, because being an agent is my job now, and it would not be politic. If I put myself in the position of an actor with an agent who suddenly went off from time to time making television series, it doesn't. It really, if I was that actress, or if I was a client, I don't think I'd be terribly happy with that. And however, this video that I've just done, I did love doing it, I have to be honest. I was petrified. It's that thing of being back in front of a camera, and all that goes with making a video. It's not like this, it's not like a camera, it's all the crew, the director, the lighting, we had the most fantastic cameraman on it, and I know it's going to look fantastic. But that has excited me, and the thought of doing more would be good. Now, if it went to a series on video, perhaps, then that is something I could do, because I could quite legitimately make a video of something that none of my other clients could do, because there is a reason why I am playing Keel. So I could quite legitimately do a series on video. If it went to television, that I would have to think about.
I'm going to open this up now to questions from the audience. I'm sure there must be people who want to ask Wendy questions, not just about Doctor Who maybe, but about perhaps upcoming Soul's Ark, or about her career in general. Anybody have a question for Wendy Padbury at all?
I've talked to you.
I think you covered it all.
Pardon?
I think you covered it all.
I think you've done a fantastic
Thank
job.
you very well. Chris provided all
Absolutely
the notes for me, so big thanks to Chris. There must be some questions, come on. It's the last time I have Wendy Padbury here to ask her a question, so.
When you're in Doctor Who, did you have any input into your character? Did you decide how she was going, what sort of character she was going to be, and what direction?
Yeah, it was pretty obvious from the writing that she was going to be this fairly strong, clever girl.
Yeah.
Who didn't take a lot of stick from people. But I did feel that perhaps as it moved on, instead of, I didn't quite retain.
I think one of the reason why she was my favourite character, I think your success.
Mine too.
Yeah. So you were a clever astrophysicist. I can't say.
I know, it's tricky, isn't it?
But you also, like the heroine who's you know, tied up on the track, and the train was coming along. You know, you needed rescuing as well.
Yes.
I think you were quite young, fairly naive.
Yeah.
So you did get into trouble and did need rescuing.
Yes,
but,
that's true.
You always did something to save the day. You always did something clever in every single episode. Like fighting away in that maze in Secret Death.
Yeah.
Or destroying the entire cyber fleet in invasion. That's amazing to wipe them out just like
Now
that.
that's clever. Yeah, no, it is clever.
Yeah, it was a pinnacle.
Any other questions for Wendy at all?
Who did you play in Crossroads?
I played...
Benny.
Thank you very much. I played a character called Stevie Harris.
You've
And
got
she
a
was
picture of you putting a little at home, a star on the Christmas tree.
Yeah, with a guy called Roger Tong, who
Yeah.
played my brother.
Oh,
I
so
became...
right.
I'm not quite sure how I actually started in the motel, but Meg Richardson adopted me.
Oh, right.
I became her adopted daughter. So the character Roger Tong became my brother.
Sandy was your half
Sandy,
brother.
that's it.
Or
Was my
stepbrother.
half, yeah, that's right.
He had an accident. He was in a wheelchair, wasn't he? Didn't he have a car accident?
Yeah, later on.
Yeah.
Later on, after I'd left, yeah. Yeah, so that, yeah.
Also, you appeared in Emmerdale with Fraser Hines, didn't you?
I
Yes,
did,
we
yes,
did.
I
I
did
didn't
3
mention
episodes
that,
of a
did
sort
I?
of reporter. Yeah, yeah, that was
I
nice.
actually got the cast into that. That was one of the odd occasions when you two were together.
Yeah.
And
I also did a play with
Granola Television, wasn't
at
it?
the 4 Seasons about this estate at this house. They're called big houses.
the 4 Seasons.
4 Seasons, yeah.
Yeah, they had 3 daughters in it, wasn't
That's right. It was
Yes,
about.
I
It
watched
was.
that
It
one,
was
yeah.
a series of 3 plays
Yeah.
about the house and the families that lived in them at different
Yeah,
periods
I
of
remember
time.
watching that.
And the first one was set in Napoleonic times, and there were these 3 sisters, Faith, Hope, and Charity.
That's
I
it,
played
yeah.
the youngest, Charity. And Fraser played the groom in the stables, and Thora Hird was in that as well, playing the matchmaker. That was very good. Well, I thought it was very good. But yes, that was when I didn't know Fraser was in it, and I was being measured for a wig at Wig Creations, and there were little cubicles with curtains. And I went into this cubicle and I was sitting there and somebody was like measuring my head or whatever. And I heard this talking in the next cubicle and I thought, I know that voice. I sort of pulled the curtain back and I went, oh, Blurry, what are you doing here? And he went, what are you doing here? And I said, I'm doing this play for, and he went, so am I. We were both in it.
We have Fraser coming here actually in about a month's
Oh, do
time,
you?
on 7th of March. Do you have a message for him, or cryptic message or something you'd like to...
I'll
Private
think of,
joke maybe?
I'll think of one, I'll let you know later.
He's coming
I'll
on,
give you
is it
something.
March the 7th we have him here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll think of something.
Do you see him much as such?
I haven't, I mean, I saw him, the last time I saw him was at BAFTA.
Oh, 35 up.
Yeah. But I don't see him, well, I do see him at conventions, but not really much other than that. No.
We'll think of something to
I
pass
will.
on to him in
I
a month's
will.
time.
I'll think of something.
Any other questions for Wendy Padbury at all? It's the last chance you'll get. After 1999, you can't ask any more questions.
Well, I'll be here for a bit if you think of something. You can ask
Sells
me
art
that.
conventions from next year.
Souls Art Convention.
Is there going to be a launch for that, by the way, as such? Will there be like a press call and a launch?
Yeah, they're trying to do something. There is going to be a premiere of some description.
At the NFT or
We
something?
don't know yet what it's
Or
going to be.
back maybe.
Well, Western Superman Playhouse, I think.
Well, why not? I mean,
It was a kind of like a bit Doctor Who location stuff on that, in the woods up to there in, mud till 10 o'clock at night. It was...
there'll be plenty of adverts
Yeah.
like in Doctor Who magazine and other affiliated,
Oh, yes.
so we'll be very aware of when this is coming
Oh,
out,
yes.
and
Yeah.
so we can queue up and buy it.
I've got some flyers actually that I can give you for it.
Well, you hand those out, I'll
Yeah.
do some signings later,
Yeah.
maybe. Any other questions?
Do you have any of the... I read in the brochure for today's event that you've got one of the costumes that you wore? You've got two.
No,
You haven't.
No, I haven't. I did have one, but it must have gone to Oxfam or something.
Is that one of the
yeah,
seats of death, is that?
It was
The one-piece jumpsuit thing?
No, it wasn't the one piece. It was, I don't know which story I wore it in actually. It was leather, sort of pale yellow leather. And it was a trousers with kind of laces up the side and a laced top. When I say laces, I mean like shoelaces, not lacy. Well, I don't know what story I wore it in.
Is that the one with the foam?
Yeah.
It was a Caesar Jack though. It was the
Is
Ice
that the
Warriors.
one you were talking
yes,
about?
It is. Yes.
It wasn't an all-in-one.
The
It
Ice
was
Warriors
a
and the
top
foam,
and
Hampstead Heath, all that kind of
trousers.
stuff.
It was like a trouser suit, but made of leather. And I really liked the design, and I thought it was something I could actually wear. If Fraser and I were the very few of them then did any personal appearances or anything, it was the sort of thing that would have been, unlike a PVC paper skirt, you know. It would have been the sort of...
That was preposterous, that, wasn't it? A paper skirt, I mean, it's going to tear.
Well, it did. I mean, I had loads of them. But I had to buy it from the BBC. You know, they didn't like give it to you. You had to actually.
You had to pay them for this.
For the costume I wore, I had to pay for.
We don't use them at all. Wouldn't fit in.
No use at all. What I did was I got it slightly cheaper because what I did was that I paid for the fabric. So I went with the designer to the shop, and we chose the fabric, which I paid for, and then I paid a little more, and then I got it, but I didn't pay the full whack. But of course, by the time we'd shot the thing, I'd got silver paint over it because you know they'd painted a bit of silver paint somewhere, and I'd crawled through something, and it must have gone the way of all clothes. Oxfam, you know, I must have just bagged it up and thought, oh, I probably won't ever need this again.
Two more questions. Sorry, don't worry about it.
I can smell them, yeah.
Two more questions, come on. Well, let me ask one of those questions then. I understand that Fraser and Patrick were merciless about your height. I mean, a lot of ribbing going on when they were making it. That must have been not so much fun, I should think.
No, it was great fun. I don't mind. I can take all that. It was fine. I mean, let's face it. Fraser's not exactly 6 foot himself.
No, he's not.
Yeah. No, it was fun. There were lots of jokes and lots of good times. I mean, Pat came out that TARDIS many a time without his trousers. Oh yeah.
Yes, it's cracked up. You're quite a giggler actually, aren't you, on
yeah,
set, I think,
terrible.
when you're filming.
Terrible. Absolutely terrible, yeah.
And Patrick's fluff lines and the way he diverts from the script and goes off on his little way.
In his own world, yes. World of his own.
One more question, come on, someone think of a good question. Come on, that must be somebody with a question.
I'll ask you about the audio you did on Cosmic Cube, that story.
Oh yes.
What did you think of doing it and the story?
I would, yes. It was difficult. It was actually quite difficult to read, I thought. And I haven't listened to the whole thing. What were the other stories like? Did you actually hear them all?
Yes. Yeah. Yours is quite confusing. I find it quite
confusing.
One. Yeah.
I found it a confusing one, and unfortunately, because I did it like overnight and sent it because there was no time. There wasn't time to think, but I just got the feeling it could have been better written in a way, and that it didn't kind of make sense to me. I mean, it was not. I'd like to do them again. I mean, it would have been nice to have spent time on it and done it in a proper studio and actually talked about it a bit, and perhaps she was. There was no. One minute I was being funny, and the next minute, I mean, I just found it all a bit confusing, which did make it difficult to read.
Yeah, it sounded as though it was difficult to do.
Yeah.
Did raise quite a bit of money, I think, didn't it?
That was the object of the
So,
exercise, was to raise the money, and that was fine. And I think, you know, under those circumstances, that was good. But if we do them again, it would be nicer to have a bit more notice and to actually perhaps do a bit of work on the story.
Before we close this part of today, Wendy's chosen charity for having the money from the raffle tickets and the charity autograph auction later will be. Can you tell us something about the charity that you want this money to go to?
Well, they do research into cot deaths, basically.
This is Colin Baker's charity.
It is, yes, yes. And I mean, it is so difficult to choose a charity. I mean, Colin, that charity is very dear to his heart because that happened to him, and I don't particularly have anything that has happened to me, and so you know, you could choose any one of them. Cancer research, I mean, all of them. So that this is the one that I decided that I would give to Colin's charity.
Every penny we raise from the raffle tickets sold and the autographs that we would sell go to that charity. Last time, I think, what's our record so about £160, isn't it?
Yes.
Probably not going to beat that with 20 people here, but that's a Jean Marsh, but we'll try our best. We certainly want to get into three figures anyway.
So Jean Marsh has been here?
We actually had her at Crawley College, actually.
Oh.
Some of these events we hold here, and some we hold at Crawley College. We had Peter Davidson here, and we've had Deborah Watling, Caroline John. We've got Sophie Aldridge next week. Fraser's in a month's time. We've got Nicola Bryant in April.
Excellent.
So we'll get through them all eventually. Well, for the time being, thank you very much, Wendy Padbury.
You're very welcome.
Do you want to...
It's not quite... This isn't quite over, is it?
No, we've got... what we're going to do now is we're going to... Well, if you want to take a rest,
yeah.
Get some wine, we'll sort some... We'll pop outside and if...
No.
Yeah,
no.
Oh, I was going to do that.
We ready?